That's right. It's time for the stock report, where we take a look at which NFL draft prospects helped their stock and hurt their stock. And it was a big week of college football with a lot of craziness. So I guess let's just go ahead, get into it. Let's talk about, let's start with guys that helped their stock. And where I want to start out with is with Jalen Milroe. He is firmly in that quarterback one conversation. You can make an argument. Is there a quarterback worth a top 10 pick? Well, when you have the upside of Jalen Milroe, there might be. Like, Jalen Milroe's got a big arm. He's very athletically gifted. And he's playing hella good football. The accuracy, you still worry about the ball placement and the accuracy on the short to intermediate passes, but that is something that has improved. Even in this game, you could tell, yeah, okay, the ball placement isn't exactly always ideal. Like, even on the interception to CJ Dupree, it could have been better, but he put it in a place where his tight end should have been able to catch the football. Instead, it ends up flying out of his hands for an interception. So interception, not on his fault, but I mean, you can make an argument that Milroe could have placed that ball better, but he had a big game against Georgia. Goes for over 370 yards passing, along with over 110 yards running the football and 4 total touchdowns. Again, kind of had the Heisman moment there. And with Milroe, like, if you're kind of like curious, like, he was my quarterback one entering the season, because I believed if he took that next step, that the tools are just insane with him. He's a legit weapon with his legs. He's got a huge arm. The mechanics are a lot better than you would anticipate. He's got a nice whip, a nice release. He can throw with that velocity. And I mean, he's just kind of a keen improviser at this juncture. However, again, the ball placement on the throw bases can be better. He's doing a better job diagnosing and going through reads. That's actually something I was very impressed with him with. But yeah, Milroe, I think you probably make the argument, him and another guy I'm going to talk about pretty soon are probably your quarterback ones as it stands now. But let's stay with this game. Let's talk about Carson Beck. Again, with the good comes the bad. But it wasn't all bad for Carson Beck. Carson Beck, he ends up throwing for 3 interceptions, does throw for 3 touchdowns, over 430 yards, and was a big reason why Georgia got back into this game. You're still dealing with the guy who's relatively a high floor player. Like, let's not act or pretend like the tools are insane. Like, his arm strength, it's okay. We saw some ducks by him. In particularly the Kobe Young throw, I thought came up, honestly, didn't come up short, but he's going to come up short on some of those plays. There were some long throws where it was like, yeah, if he had better arm strength, he probably could actually led his receiver rather than having his receiver have to come back to the football, which I think in a couple of cases, at least in one case in that game, resulted in a pass interference, because if you're a DB, you're trailing the receiver downfield, you're not going to have time to turn around and make a play on the football. And when the ball's underthrown, the receiver's just going to try to go through you while you're trying to just keep pace with him. So it's like, it's a messy situation. But Carson Beck, I don't think there's an argument that he's not a top 50 player. The question is how great you feel about him at the back end of the first round or maybe early second. Like, again, I don't love this quarterback class. And I even think in general, Jim Nagy's come out and said there might not be a lot of first round and graded players in this class. And I tend to agree with that. Like, I might be able to be like, yeah, I think there's like 20 guys in here who are first round caliber players. And then you might have a good heft to day 2. That's probably where the strength might be in this class, is with the day 2 prospects. But Carson Beck, like, there's again a lot to love. Like, the poise, the composure to stay in this ball game, being like, hey, if we want to, we're down 30-7. If we need to come out slinging, I need to make big throws and not put the ball so much in harm's way. Like, yeah, I'm going to take risky throws here and there, but let's make sure that those risky throws aren't exactly turnover throws. Just let me make sure I'm not just giving the ball away to the defense. Like, the composure is there of I think a future potential starting quarterback in the NFL. It's just you're gonna have to live with the upside not necessarily being great. Like him under this was another thing. He was stressed under pressure early in that Alabama game, but then Alabama didn't blitz nearly as much in the second half. And when they started to come back to blitzing, Beck, he wasn't making poor throws. He played much better under pressure in the second half. But yeah, like I don't know if you could really make the argument for quarterback one, especially if you look at some of the guys with a bit better traits in this class that are just kind of playing at such a high level this year. Everybody loves the NFL draft, and I know you want to be familiar with every potential prospect that your team may draft, so I got good news for you. My draft guide is available for purchase. It is good throughout the entire draft cycle, and it updates through the season regularly. You'll get my current evals and rankings on hundreds of different players with player backgrounds and analytics. It also contains combine and pro day numbers, as well as my notes from the Senior and Shrine Bowl. You can purchase it for a one-time payment of $30 on PayPal, Venmo, and now I have the Cash App. Follow the link in the description and be sure to include your email because it is a Google spreadsheet. That is how I share it with you. So please don't make me hunt down your email. Just don't do it. Anywho, it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. And we're going to talk about one more quarterback, Cam Ward. Wasn't the prettiest game against Virginia Tech. It wasn't. But he got it done. He made some big time plays. He ends up having 5 touchdowns in this game against Virginia Tech. Throws for over 340 yards. And man, the thing with he's probably going to be a lot of people's quarterback ones or at least quarterback 2. He's going to be vying for that spot because you love the confidence he plays with. You love the arm talent. You may not love the sidearm release, but it works for him. You love his ability to make plays with his feet. I think he's shown to be more poised and comfortable in the pocket than he was in the first half of that Florida game. And it's better seeing that in this Virginia Tech game because it's not like they faced great competition the last 3 weeks. They faced like Ball State and South Florida. You can make an argument, but and they also faced Florida A&M. So against a very good Virginia Tech team, especially a team that has some good defenders on it, he played a hell of a good ball game. But he's got to eliminate that. Like that arm arrogance, that arrogance to, oh man, the play's never dead. Sometimes you just gotta live to fight another down. That was apparent on the opening drive with the strip sack fumble. That was apparent in the red zone, putting the ball in harm's way, not really seeing the defender, results in an interception. But you love the traits. You love the athletic ability. You love the arm talent, the arm velocity throws with, the ability to throw at a variety of different arm angles, and just the ability to improvise, which you saw late in that game where the man's about to get sacked and he just dumps it off, dishes it off to one of his tight ends, I believe. I can't remember which. Oh, was it Arroyo? I can't recall. But Cam Ward's arguably quarterback 1, quarterback 2 in this class. But I'm done talking about quarterbacks. Let's talk about the offensive line with Aireontae Ersery out of Minnesota, coming in 6'6", 325 pounds. Did have a bit of a down game by his standard, but when you consider who he was facing there for Michigan, then you come away, oh, I really wish that was like he had reps against Josiah Stewart, but Stewart was hurt this game. But Derek Moore's hella good. And honestly, the guy that stepped up there for Michigan, I think it was TJ Gray. was his name. He looked really good. Had a big game. And Ersery, yeah, you saw some of the stuff like, okay, you could occasionally, there's some struggle there when it comes to playing against speed. There's a little bit of struggle there, here and there. So, like, a lot of that has to do with his leverage too. Like, he's a tall, 6'6", that's a fine height for a tackle, but he does play with tall pads, and he kind of just opens up and lets defenders get into those pads, especially with these speed rushers that are looking to turn speed to power. And the bull rush was effective in this game. The inside move was particularly effective against Ersery, as he has a tendency to like overset, and that just tells defenders, hey, go to the inside counter me, man, inside counter me. And he did, man. He ended up allowing 3 pressures and a sack, and actually had the lowest win rate among the offensive line for Minnesota. It was only 95%, which tells you just how often offensive tackles win to be criticizing someone who won about 95% of the time on pass rush and snaps. So, like, Ersery, I still think he's probably tackle 3, tackle 4, depends how you view Emory Jones. But, like, man, it's such a hard case to make. Like, do you take him in the top 20? Again, I don't love it for this class. But, again, the tackle depth of this class isn't great either. But I think better weeks lay ahead for our boy out of Minnesota. Let's jump to the defensive side of the ball, but we're going to stick into the Big Ten with Abdul Carter. Edge out of Penn State, coming in at 6'3", 250 pounds. Honestly, you could also put his teammate there, Danny Sutton Dennis, out of Penn State. They both had big games against legitimate good tackles there for Illinois, whether it's J.C. Davis or I can't remember the other cat's name. I need to add him to the draft guide. I'll do that this week. But Abdul Carter was absolutely nuts. He showed everything that people have been yammering about this guy being a top 10 pick. And I get it from an athletic perspective. I get it from just a overall tools perspective. It's just the play hasn't been there against lesser competition nonetheless. Like, he was struggling to kind of disengage in the run game. He wasn't getting and winning as consistent as he should be against, honestly, kind of rubbish competition, whether that's Kent State, whether that's and to be fair, he was good. Like, he started rolling against Kent State. And I feel like that kind of led into this game where he had 8 pressures, 4 defensive stops, 2 sacks, a forced fumble. He even threw a pass breakup in there. He had a win rate of 24%. Yeah, in an edge class where it's like, who's the top edge player? James Pierce? He's light. He needs to add tools to his toolbox, but I get it. He's explosive. It's elite. Is it Nick Scorton, who he's been playing a little beat up this year, so the play hasn't been nearly as consistent. He looked good this past week, but yeah, you like the size. You like his ability as a technician. Is it him? Mikael Williams, he's currently has a high ankle sprain for a guy that has all the tools, but you need to see the production. He's kind of in a tough spot. Jalen Walker, not ideal size. Like, Abdul Carter could probably step up and be like, oh no, I'm edge 1. Like, because everything's there. If this is just a sign of things to come, yeah, top 10 talent, man, top 10. Again, my biggest hiccup with him was, can you disengage once you get stuck? Can you show me abilities to win when your initial move doesn't work? And we saw it in this freaking game. He annihilated Illinois. Poor Luke Altmaier was under pressure, I think, in about 60% of the time in this ball game. And under pressure, not a great quarterback, and it led to Illinois not scoring points. They ended up only scoring 7 in this ball game. So, like, Abdul Carter, I'm hoping this is a sign of things to come. Who do they got next week? I think it's like Michigan State, right? Let's take a look at the Penn State schedule. No, I think it's UCLA. I can't remember. I'm getting it confused. No, it's UCLA. It's Oregon that has Michigan State. Because Oregon just faced UCLA. So UCLA, he should tear it up in that game. It's something to monitor. He probably gets, if he just continues this type of output, even if it's not to this level, because this is kind of a ludicrous stat line. Even if it's like half of that, we're talking like 4 pressures, a sack, a win rate that's around that 19%, just consistently, then it's like, yeah, we're probably talking about you in the top 10, my friend. All right, let's move on. Next on the list, I have Tacario Davis, corner out of Arizona. Phenomenal game this past week. You might be like, he allowed 77 yards in coverage. He was targeted 13 times and gave up all of 5 receptions. And let's be fair with Isaiah Wilson at quarterback there for Utah. He was really just throwing a lot of gimme balls. But he ended up having 3 pass breakups in this game. And that's great, man. I wanted to see this guy be a bit more active at the catch point. Like this year, teams were typically thrown away from him, or they were kind of like attacking underneath on him because they've been playing a lot of off coverage. He was phenomenal in this game, man. And he was very active against the run. He had like 2 defensive stops, 7 tackles in this game. Like 6'4", 194, freaky length, good movement skills at that size. Yeah, dude, you're looking for a corner to step up probably in the back end of day 1. And he's a guy that's going to be consistently thrown out there, and he deserves it. This was a good game for Tacario Davis. Again, hopefully it's a sign of more things to come for him. Underdog Fantasy. Go to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code Broshmo when you sign up, and they will match your first deposit up to $250. It's the best place to play weekly best ball, or my favorite, higher lower on player props. For instance, they got the doubleheader. We got Monday Night Football, but we got it twice. And you could take advantage of some of their gimme picks here. Like you got Tyreek Hill, higher lower 1 yard. You got Jared Goff, higher lower 1 yard. So get in on the action. They got promos for you and specials every day of the week. It's a real fun place to bet some football, but it's not just football. They got all kinds of other sports. I just don't care about other sports. Hey, that's just who I am. I'm not gonna deny myself, but yeah, get in on the action. Sign up using promo code Broshmo, and they will match that first deposit up to $250. But as always, bet responsibly. We're going to stay with the defensive side of the football. I got Keon Sabb, safety out of Alabama. Didn't have the greatest game against Georgia, unfortunately. As the safety class feels like it's getting thinner. But let's not take away from what Sabb has done this year. It just so happened that in this game, he got lit up a little bit, and a lot of that had to do with how aggressive he is. And to be fair, not an ideal situation on the Dillon Bell touchdown. I think he ended up playing man on him, and Bell just hit him with like oh yeah, I'm going across the field. Oh wait, I'm taking this upfield. I'm going vertical, and burnt him for like what was like a 67-yard touchdown. That was the touchdown that Sabb allowed in this ball game. But he also had a missed tackle that wasn't great. Should have been an easy wrap up for him. That's the thing, man. He's got a tendency of sometimes slipping off of tackles. Like he tackles real high. Really needs to lower that hitbox. Needs to be better on some of the pursuit angles. Like honestly, like even in coverage, like the angle he took to go play that crosser, it just opened himself up to being like, hey, yeah, go across my face, man. Just do it. Just do it. But you definitely, like, I think at the NFL level, he's someone you want to maybe play around the box. And if you are going to give him coverage assignments, he should be playing like a quarters type of coverage. He shouldn't be. I don't think he's someone that has that like. I don't think he's someone that has that feel to be kind of like a deep middle third type of player. Like he just isn't. He isn't that guy that can cover like half of the football field. But if you have him in a quarter system or you're playing him around the box, he's got a good feel about what's going on underneath. And like with that like Dylan Bell situation, it was like, man, this is why you should have had someone else playing deep. It allows him to play football the way he wants, and that's attacking downhill, making plays on the ball. And that's what he was doing. It was just he had no help over the top. So kind of a down week, but not really, because again, like Sabb, he's put on really good film this year. He put on good film last year for Michigan. But there's definitely some things to clean up. He's not going to be everyone's cup of tea when it comes to the safety class. All right, I want to talk about some new names, some names I haven't talked about yet. That's going to be true with Bhayshul Tuten. I haven't got a pronunciation for the first half of. I haven't gotten a pronunciation for his first name. I know some people was like, you didn't listen to it on the broadcast, and that's where I'm like, you don't get the broadcast when you watch all 22. You just don't. But I should have looked up the pronunciation. But he was a new watch for me this week. Got to watch him against my freaking Hurricanes where he tore off that 55-yard run for a touchdown. But he's coming in at 5'11", 209. I don't believe that he's that big. I think he might be closer to 5'9", maybe 5'10", and I think he's closer to 200 pounds. He seems a little more slender in my opinion. But again, we'll see during the offseason draft process when these guys get their measurements and whatnot. But he was also someone I saw in the chat that a guy that I should go over. So I was like, okay, let's wait for the big game. Let's see if he has a big game against my Hurricanes. He did. He ran for 141 yards, had that big touchdown. And what I came away with, like, I guess quickly, let's go over some of the background with him because this is a new player that I'm talking about on the channel, opposed to like everyone that I've talked about in this video thus far. Those were guys that I've already previously covered on the channel, so I've already kind of gone into their backgrounds. I haven't done that with Tuten. Tuten was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school, but he was someone who played returner, played running back. He was a sprinter in track and field. He had the 8th fastest 60-meter time in South Jersey back in 2021. He ends up going to North Carolina A&T, where he was primarily the kick returner. And then in year 2, he was the running back, made third team All-American for the FCS. He was an first team All Big South. And then he transfers to Virginia Tech last year, where he started all 13 games, but it was very much a rotation there. He was the primary returner. He had like over 566 kick return yards. Now this year he's being more of the bell cow, and like he's got good quicks, good speed. Like he can hit the home run shot, obviously. Though I think in the NFL he doesn't have such outlandish speed where it's like I could see him getting caught from behind here or there. But again, it's good. It's very good it's very fine for the position. His contact balance is kind of nuts. He's kind of like a pinball where I do think he's on the shorter end, so he just plays with naturally lower pads, or maybe he just plays with lower pads and he's taller than I thought. But he's able to eat contact well, man. Like he legitimately bounces off contact, does a good job of keeping his feet under him and keeping the play going. However, I will say I would like to see him get a little bit stronger because he's more so playing off of contact. He's not playing through the contact. Like he's surviving hits, but he gets knocked around. So maybe putting on a little bit more mass can help him with that, because I do feel like the force missed tackle rate is a little inflated just because of his ability to survive contact. I just don't see him being able to serve. I don't see that working well enough in the NFL where it's like, oh, he can make a guy or he can bounce off a guy, but then he goes down right after that initial contact. So little nitpicky there, I guess, but I would like his overall use in the passing game to be better, at least as a pass catcher. He has a drop rate through his career of 10.2%. So I'd like to see softer hands because I do think he could be really nasty on wheel routes. Not necessarily a guy that makes you miss. He likes to use that speed after breaking contact. Like he's got that, like he wants to be physical. He doesn't mind taking on contact. He relishes contact, some would say. And I just think I would just love to see that active use in the passing game. I would like to see a little bit more of that in the passing game, and it just hasn't been there this year for him. Not a very good pass blocker. Dude's just gonna get ran through. That's typically the case. So if he wants to, like right now, I feel like he's more mid to late day 3. If he wants to go upboards, I'm gonna have to see more from the passing game in that regard, and probably has to be a guy that puts on weight. But like Tuten, the problem is he ends up being in a very good running back class, so he kind of falls down the boards. There's a lot of guys to like in this running back class. There really is. Another guy I haven't talked about on the channel is Hollin Pierce, offensive tackle at Rutgers, which is, hey, we need some guys to step up in this offensive tackle class, and I think Pierce could be one of them. First off, built different, built very different at 6'8", 344 pounds, and you're like, that's a beefy boy. Oh, that's a beefy boy. Yeah, he used to be 455 pounds. Like, quick little background on him. He was a 0-star recruit from the 2019 class out of Trenton Central High School. Didn't start playing football till his junior year of high school, where he played both on the offensive and defensive lines. He was 450 pounds at that point. He was also playing basketball, by the way. That was kind of nuts. His uncle, fun fact, Hollis Copeland, played basketball at Rutgers, which I think played a big part in why he ended up going to Rutgers. But his uncle also played a couple of years for the Knicks, I think back in the 70s, maybe the 80s, but injuries kind of screwed his career there. But he ends up going to Fork Union Academy. So as a post-grad, he's like, okay, I need to put more film on tape. Also, I need to get better about my weight. So he does that for a year. His only scholarship offer at the end of that season was from Morgan State. He ends up walking on at Rutgers. Like, he sends tape to the Rutgers head coach there, and he's able to end up getting his foot in the door. He walks on, red shirts the 2020 season. I think he ends up playing in one game as like a reserve, but he red shirts that 2020 season, which, hey, it's a pandemic year anyway, so there wasn't much football being played for the Big Ten. And he ends up getting down to, I think, he was down to 400 pounds at Fork Union, and then he shed it even further where he was down to like the 360 mark. By the time he ended up becoming a starter in 2021, he started at all games at right tackle in 2021 and 2022. He moves to left tackle at 2023. He's playing left tackle this season, and he's done a hell of a good job at left tackle. He only allowed 10 pressures and a sack in 2023. Thus far, I think he's allowed like maybe 4 pressures. Allowed a pressure and no sack in this game, but he's down to 344. So like the first thing you gotta put down after going through his background was, for one, you love the experience at both tackle spots. You kind of love that. But also the work ethic of this guy, knowing, hey, I need to get on a better diet, and I'm going to put in the work to get on a football field, to get on the football field. Like, ever since this dude's picked up football, like he's kind of made good decisions. Like, oh, I'm going to be a post grad. I'm going to go to Fork Union. I'm going to put more tape on display for these programs while also trying to shed weight. He gets to Rutgers. He ends up walking on. And during that redshirt year, he gets on well, for one, he's in a college weight room. And then two, he's on a strict diet. So like, and he gets down to, he's now 344 and he moves so well at 344, at least north to south. He moves really well when going upfield. Like that's the thing with this dude. Like he's stupid powerful and very good in the run game. Like he runs through guys. And if he can't run through you, he's going to redirect and just wash you out of the run game altogether. I think he currently leads college football in big time blocks via PFF, which are essentially those, hey, I'm going to put you on your butt now, if you would. And he does a great job of that. And like his hands, like you can tell this is someone that's really worked on his craft because, again, not having a lot of football experience in high school, and he's really worked on his craft. Like the hands are good. They're good because he understands at 6'8", he doesn't play with good leverage. He doesn't. He suffers from the tall tackle problem, but he's also not a bendy guy, not a flexible player. But he does a good job of using his hands to like deafen pass rushers and then lifting them up and standing them up. Basically saying, no, you're playing my game. I'm not playing yours. I love that. Now, at that size, fun fact, lateral ability, it's not ideal. It's not. It's just not. Like he's gonna struggle with his kick slide. He's not the most nimble guy. There are times where he just doesn't take the necessary depth on those kick slides, or he's having to work back playing inside moves and playing stunts just because, well, I kind of oversetted in my kick slide. So like not the most nimble guy. I think very much this is a dude that's going to be playing in a gap heavy scheme, but I think he could be an absolute murderer in that regard. And given the current depth or lack thereof depth in this tackle class, could end up honestly in the third round. Like could end up being a day 2 player. But there's only one player left on this list, and it's Deone Walker, man. I think right now at this juncture, he is defensive interior too. I think that's kind of undisputed. Thank you, Akila, for your insight. Akila wants to be heard, man. She wants to be heard. But Deone Walker coming in at 6'6", 348, had a really good game against Ole Miss where he had 4 pressures, 2 sacks, 2 defensive stops, very active in both the run and the pass. And it was nice to see that. It was nice to see a little bit of stank as a pass rusher this week from him, because that was kind of the thing. He wasn't nearly as dominant as a pass rusher thus far this season as he was last year. Like last year, he had a win rate of 14.5%, which pretty good. Like if we're talking about like high pass rush win, like if we're talking about guys that stick out from the defensive interior, you want to be around that 15%. His true pass rush win rate, we're talking about just like legit one-on-ones, not influenced by the run game. So no RPOs, no screens, no play actions. His win rate last year was 21.4% when it came to that true pass rush win rate. He had 51 pressures. He had 8 sacks. But this year, we just haven't seen that from him. And it was like, man, like at the very least, he's still a very, very good very good run defender. But this week, it was a bit better. He got around that 10% win rate, which, hey, on the interior, just not going to win as much. But able to get home, man. Able to help finish where others applied that pressure. He was able to finish, man. And you love to see that from him. And he is a rare mover at that size. He really, really is, man. And like he brings that overwhelming power, but he's also light on his feet. And he is a team captain for this squad. So, and it's wild because like I feel like the sand in the pants have been a bit better from him. There was something like in the run game where I felt like he didn't have the power of a 348 pounder. But this year, the run game's been really good for him. He's been very good against the run. And maybe some of that is kind of cost what he's done against the pass, but it was good to see it this week from him. It was really good to see it this week from him. But let me know who were some of your favorite prospects this past week of college football, this crazy week in college football, because there were some good goated performances, but I only talk about 10 guys on this list. There's plenty more we can talk about. So let's talk about them in the comment section below. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.